Fujiyama is the self-proclaimed king of coasters. Located at Fuji-Q Highland, this hypercoaster was once the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. While it has since lost those records, it is still among the largest coasters out there. And since it was manufactured by Togo, this feels radically different from all the other hypercoasters out there. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'll explain in this review. Fuji-Q Highland is widely considered to be Japan's premier thrill park. This place loves installing record-breaking roller coasters. Throughout their history, they have installed multiple roller coasters that were once the world's tallest and/or fastest. The park opened Moonsault Scramble in 1983 as the world's tallest roller coaster, standing 246 feet, or 75 meters tall. However, this record was hotly debated. Part of that reported height was attributed to decorative towers. Then, this was a shuttle coaster, meaning the train did not complete a full circuit. As a result, the full train would not achieve that full height. That is why multiple full-circuit roller coasters that opened over the next decade also claimed the height record. This includes Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, which opened in 1989 with a max height of 205 feet, or 62 meters, and the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which opened in 1994 with a height of 213 feet, or 65 meters. To squash all contention, Fuji-Q Highland opened Fujiyama in 1996. This opened as the unquestioned world's tallest roller coaster, standing 259 feet or 79 meters tall. This stood taller than any prior coasters, shuttle, or complete circuit. It also took the speed record from Steel Phantom at Kennywood by 1 mile per hour, as it hit speeds of 81 miles per hour or 130 kilometers per hour. Fujiyama lost all these records to a few different rides in the next 4 years, but is still a monstrous ride. Today, it is still the second tallest and second fastest roller coaster in Japan, and it looks huge. You can see this coaster from anywhere within the park. It looks particularly imposing up close with its dense sea of supports. Unlike a lot of hypercoasters that have simple out and back layouts, Fujiyama is a triple out and back coaster. Combined with Japan's strict earthquake regulations, you have countless supports jammed next to each other. I also love the views you get from Fujiyama Tower, which is a huge observation tower adjacent to the first turnaround. Conversely, this coaster doesn't look nearly as massive as you approach the park, because it sits alongside Mount Fuji, which makes anything look small. But it is one heck of a surreal sight seeing a coaster next to a volcano. Aesthetically, this coaster does not have much going for it beyond the size. This ride's paint scheme is basic with white track and black supports. Then the name translates to King of Coasters, so there also is not any theming. The ride has a massive entrance sign, followed by a queue line consisting of stacked ramps. Fuji-Q loves this queue configuration, which is understandable given how they are very limited on space. And as with most rides at this park, you may have to wait a while to ride it. Fuji-Q is notorious for long waits. Many other coasters do not have high throughputs. This is typically a combination of short trains and slow dispatches. Fortunately, Fujiyama fares much better than the park's other coasters. This ride has 2 long trains. Each seats a max of 28 riders, as they are comprised of 7 cars with 2 rows of 2, and dispatches are way faster. The park typically would have the next train ready to go when the prior train hit the brakes. Now, this is a very long ride, but you don't have the safety lesson prior to boarding like you do with Ejinaika or Takabisha, and the restraint check seemed more efficient. Still, this ride often has a 45 to 60 minute wait minimum. Then it can surge beyond 90 minutes on particularly busy days. That is typically less than the park's other major coasters at least, but still unpleasant. What can you do to avoid the worst waits? The best tip with Fuji-Q is to budget for the priority passes. These are skip-the-line tickets that grant near immediate boarding. These are sold online in half-hour windows starting 2 or 3 days before your visit. These are very limited, and they can often sell out in advance on particularly busy days. The prices can vary, but they typically cost roughly 2,000 yen, or $13 per person per ride. With Fujiyama, you are sent to the final ramp, so you often board in 5 to 10 minutes. This doesn't give you any preference or advantage when it comes to seat selection though, but more on that later. Another way to beat the crowds is to purchase a ticket with early entry. The park's major coasters are open during this time with short waits. I would recommend using this time for rides like Egenika or Zokon, because those tend to have worse waits. But you can use this time to ride Fujiyama if you want to get multiple laps in quick succession. If you try to hit this attraction at official park opening, you want to enter from the main entrance. This is over by the parking lot. There's a secondary entrance by the train station, but this is on the opposite end of the park, so you'll be at a disadvantage compared to other guests if you want to start with Fujiyama. I know this coaster used to have a single rider line, but they unfortunately stopped this several years ago. With a lot of parks, it is recommended to save a long wait for the end of the night. This is because crowds typically drop, and many parks keep queues open right until official closing time. But this is a very risky approach with Fuji-Q. Like many parks in Japan, they will close queues early, so the final train goes out right at park close. So if a ride is a 1 hour wait, the queue will close 1 hour early. You should also be very careful visiting Fuji-Q on days with inclement weather. All their major coasters will close for rain. Fujiyama is also very sensitive to wind. I don't know the exact speed that shuts it down, but I'd be leery visiting on a day when winds are greater than 10 miles per hour just to be safe. You should also double check the refurbishment calendar before visiting. Since Fuji-Q is open year-round, rides need to close for annual refurbishments. The park will post which rides close a few months in advance. Fujiyama is closed for a large chunk of June the past few years. I was burned by this in my first visit to the park in 2018, and I just barely got on it last year before it went down yet again. It is also worth noting, along with rider height requirements, the coaster has an age restriction. Riders must be under 64 years in age to ride. Takabisha and Egenika are even more restrictive, as riders must be less than 54 years old to ride those. I am not sure how they enforce this, but keep this in mind if you're an older guest visiting the park. At the end of the queue, you are assigned a row. Like many parks in Japan, Fuji-Q strictly assigns seats front to back, no exceptions. They will not grant row requests under any circumstances. With some rides, you can sort of finagle when you enter the queue to influence your row, but that does not work with Fujiyama due to the crowds. While I have not gotten the very front or back, I have gotten the second and second to back cars, and I didn't think there were any bad seats in the ride. That being said, I preferred riding towards the back. Since this coaster has several sizable drops, I thought the rear rows offered more sustained airtime. The front had more violent laterals though, so I definitely am glad I was able to try both ends of the train. You were also given a basket at the end of the queue. Your pockets must be empty, so you put anything in here that does not fit in a bag. But that's not all. This park takes safety very seriously. You also must remove glasses, even if they're secured by a strap. You also must remove watches, and my wife even was asked to remove a hair clip before riding. Once everything is either in a bag or basket, they will wand you with metal detectors. You then put all your belongings off to the side while you ride. Riders are secured by seatbelts and a lap bar. The operators first check the seatbelts, then the lap bars can be lowered. This top part of the restraint is very bulky padding, which rests closer to your stomach. I assume this is to provide bracing during the lateral slams. The operators shockingly do not staple, so you usually have plenty of room between your legs and the restraint for airtime. I honestly figured they'd slam the restraints down given how over the top they are with safety in every other area. Once dispatched, you round a corner and ascend the once record-breaking lift hill. Due to the immense size, it takes roughly 1 minute and 10 seconds to reach the top. But I don't mind one bit because the views are awesome. You have the bustling park off to your left. Then a clear day, you can see Mount Fuji directly in front of you. Once at the top, you have this weird pre-drop. There's a short straight section followed by a slight rightward kink. This gives you more time to take in the sights, and for many, it builds anticipation in a similar manner to a holding break in a dive coaster. This leads to a 230-foot or 70-meter tall plunge. This is a long drop with a large crest, so you get great sustained floater airtime the whole way down the rear rows. It was pretty steep for the time, with a max angle of 65 degrees. The pullout applies some decent positive Gs, and you whiz underneath a few supports. This is the first of several nice head choppers this coaster offers. You then have a large turnaround. Whereas a lot of newer hypers have hammerhead or bank turnarounds, Fujiyama's is profiled similarly to an old school wood coaster. It is a big hill with a flat turn at the top. You bleed off a lot of speed in the ascent. Heck, there are even drive tires as a redundancy, so forget about any airtime in the entry. You then have a slow turn. This can give a beautiful view of Mount Fuji in the distance though. Then on the inside, you often have excited guests atop Fujiyama Tower waving at you. The drop off this turnaround is noticeably steeper than the entry, so it offers okay floater in the back. The pullout has another series of head choppers. Next is a large camelback. This offers weak floater in the middle to back rows, but this is the single strongest airtime moment in the ride in the front cars. Because of the sharp crest, you get very good flagector here. This leads to a bank turnaround. There's a hard lateral jolt into it. I like it, but some may find it jarring and unexpected because everything up to this point has been smooth. But you'll want to get used to this for the finale. More on that later. You then cruise up a large double up. The profiling is shallow, but the first hump offers decent floater in the front. Then the drop on the other side offers weak floater once again in the rear rows. The pullout is a bit wonky. It is a low rightward turn. It offers solid positive Gs, but it also is a bit bumpy. You then curve upwards and have another sizable drop. This provides decent sustained floater in the back. The next turnaround is a hybrid of the first and second. It sort of levels off at the top, but maintains the sideways banking the whole way through. No airtime in the entry, but the exit offers a little floater in the back when you reach that max incline. You then have a surprise speed hill. I thought this would give a nice ejector pop, but it is too shallow to offer any negative Gs. You then fly around a low turn. This offers solid positive Gs, and it feels like you'll smack your head into the supports due to the prolonged sideways banking. Now it is time for Fujiyama's finale, which I've heard described as a demented coat hanger. You have a series of banked bunny hills. My first ride in the middle was underwhelming. I got okay laterals in the first 4 bunny hills, but nothing too crazy. I was confused why people always talked about this sequence. Then I rode in the front. There, the bunny hills are nuts. You get sudden and aggressive lateral slams on every directional change. I never got the very back, but the laterals were decent in the second to back car in the first 4 bunny hills. The 5th bunny hill delivers in all rows though. It is much smaller and profiled differently. It offers good floater and good laterals across the whole train. It catches you off guard after the prior 4 that forego the negative Gs. You then have a straight bunny hill into the brake run. This offers another good dose of floater airtime. You then hit the brakes and return to the station, ending the 6,709 foot or 2,045 meter long experience. This is a very long ride. Despite being 3 decades old, this is still the 5th longest roller coaster in the world. It also is really impressive that a coaster this long has no mid-course brake runs. What about the pacing? Overall, it is nice and I like how the ride flows. It is not as fast-paced as some newer hypers, which focus more on pure speed and airtime. Due to the limited space, Fujiyama rises high in several spots to change direction, so you bleed off speed in a few spots, but most elements are fine. What about the smoothness? This is more of a polarizing topic. In general, the track work is smooth. The train rattles a bit on 2 of the early turns, but that's not the norm. That being said, there are several turns which are profiled in such a way that they dish out intense laterals. If you like sudden laterals like me, you'll like these parts, but some find these turns uncomfortable, so it comes down to personal preference. What would I rate Fujiyama? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. This is a great hypercoaster. I love how it feels distinctly different than the other hypercoasters out there. This one feels like a supersized wood coaster between the triple out and back layout and the violent laterals. While other hypers have more airtime, this coaster still has some nice negative Gs peppered in, particularly if you're on the ends of the train. I know this ride's not for everyone, but I really enjoyed it. While no longer the in-question king of coasters, this is still one of the most iconic roller coasters in Japan. and the ride still holds up between its scale and uniqueness. Those are my thoughts on Fujiyama Fuji-Q Highland. What are your thoughts on this Togo hypercoaster? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.